What's up guys, welcome back. It's time to fire up those grills because we're making beef ribs today. But before we do that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit that bell and enable notifications as well. Oh my goodness, look at that. That's how you open a YouTube video, ladies and gentlemen. Fred Flintstone would be proud. All right guys, we have 1 rack of beef plate ribs. These are cut directly below the ribeye. They're super tender once you cook them low and slow for a while. It's basically like having brisket on a bone. So the backside, as you can see here, is there's not much meat there. It's mostly bone. We're going to trim that up a little bit, and we're also going to trim the fat from the meat side. I'll show you guys how to do that here in just a second. It's important to do this though because this fat is thick and it's not really going to render down. So you want to do a nice bit of trimming here. You can save some of the trimmings if you want to. Some of this is good to go on burgers. The more firm fat, you can just get rid of that. So as you can see here, you want to be careful. You want to use a sharp knife to make sure that you are able to remove as much of the fat as you can and expose that beautifully marbled meat. It's best to do this while the meat is still cold also. So take this rack of ribs directly out of the refrigerator or freezer and do this. The colder the ribs are when you're trimming the fat, the easier it is to get it off of there. Just be patient, follow along here. Aaron Franklin has a really good meat trimming tutorial on YouTube as well. Much better than I'm doing here. But as you can see, once you remove that fat, there's tons of beautifully marbled meat right there that's just gonna render down and get super juicy and tender. There we go. Now it's time to season this bad boy up. As you can see, there's not much meat on the bone side, so we're not gonna do too much trimming here. Just anything that is kind of hanging off of there that might burn up, we're gonna remove that. And we're gonna go down with a little worst word in the world sauce and some hot sauce as our binder. So about a tablespoon or 2 of each, you wanna rub that in nicely. That's gonna help our seasoning really stick to the meat. So just do that on both sides, a little Louisiana hot sauce, a little Worcestershire sauce. Just rub that in. We're gonna use a nice application of all-purpose seasoning. You can get my all-purpose seasoning via the link in the description box below. For those of you that haven't picked that up already, it's 15% off right now for 4th of July. And for the rest of you guys, you just use a blend of salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder. Whatever barbecue rub you like is fine here. A lot of folks in Texas just go down with a little salt and pepper too. So first things first, we're going down with a nice layer of kosher salt. My all-purpose seasoning is pretty low in sodium, so I do like to go down with a little extra salt for this. Because remember guys, this is a really large piece of meat. It's about 6 pounds. You wanna make sure you season it adequately. So there we go, make sure we season the edges as well. Once we get that layer of kosher salt down, we're gonna go down with some all-purpose seasoning, which is a blend of salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, a couple different spices. You can add a little cayenne here if you wanna spice things up a bit. I wouldn't go with anything too sweet personally. I don't really like anything super sweet on my beef ribs, but whatever floats your boat, guys, use whatever you want. This all-purpose seasoning is absolutely money on these beef ribs though. And I like to use a little bit of this Killer Hogs hot barbecue rub. It adds a little bit of spice and it adds an absolutely beautiful color to help develop that bark that we're all looking for on a nice rack of beef ribs. There we go, looking good. It's really tough to beat a good rack of beef ribs. It's a little bit easier of a cook than brisket, and it's just as delicious in my opinion. So there we go, we got our ribs all seasoned up. We'll let them sit out at room temperature for about 20 minutes to really let that seasoning soak into the meat. We're gonna fire up our Traeger Pro 780 to 275 degrees. We're using some hickory and some oak wood pellets in there. And we're gonna place that rack of beef ribs right on the hot side of the grill. And this whole cook is gonna take about 5 to 6 hours, guys, depending on the size of your ribs. So every hour or so, I wanna check on it. I'm gonna spritz it with a little bit of beef stock. This is gonna help ensure that the rack of ribs stays moist. You don't want it to get too dry because then the bark gets too crunchy, and we want a beautiful bark on these ribs. So this beef stock's definitely gonna help with that. So after the first hour or two, I go back and spritz it every 30 to 45 minutes. Once it hits about 165 to 175 degrees internal temperature, we're gonna wrap it in some foil. You also can wrap it in butcher paper if you wanna do that. There we go, right up to about 170 degrees, which is right where we want to be when we're about to wrap these ribs. So we're going to double up on the heavy duty aluminum foil here. I'm going to add the rack of beef ribs, and then we're going to add about a 1/4 cup of beef stock. This is important, guys, because it's going to help the beef ribs get nice and tender. So you kind of want to braise them a little bit in this foil wrapping here. So wrap these up like a beautiful Christmas present. Nice and tight, make sure nothing's escaping out of there. And then we're going to place that back on the grill for about 2 hours. So roughly 2 to 3 hours uncovered, 2 hours wrapped in foil. And then we're going to unwrap them for about another 30 to 45 minutes to reestablish that bark. Right now we're looking for anywhere between 205 and 210 internal temperature is a sweet spot for beef ribs that I find. You want to use your meat thermometer here to kind of feel for tenderness. Once the meat thermometer goes in and out like a knife through butter, you know that the beef ribs are nice and tender right where you want them. And now, my friends, it's time for some real food porn. Brace yourself for a couple trademark money shots. I'm going to slice this bad boy up and get me a taste test. You can just see the bones sliding right out, let you know that they're nice and tender. You guys can make these in the oven as well. Same process, 275 degrees for 2 to 3 hours unwrapped. Then wrap them up with 2 hours with that beef stock. And then go back in the oven unwrapped for about 30 minutes to reestablish the bark. And then you can slice them up, and then they're going to be absolutely beautiful like you see right here. I gotta give me a taste test. Got a decent little smoke ring on there from the Traeger. Oh man, this looks good. Doesn't get much better than that, guys. Let me know in the comments if you want to see some more barbecue recipes. I'm gonna go ahead and slice this up and give this a taste, see what we got. I think that about says it all, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell to enable notifications. And as always, thank you for your support.